And good morning once again, my brothers and sisters. What a great joy it is for me to share another Living Hope Today study with you. And today we find ourselves in the book of First Chronicles, chapter 14. We're going to learn something really important today. You know, God has chosen King David. His throne is the one that's going to end up being an everlasting throne. And there are reasons for that. And we'll see that in illustrated to us this morning, that the fact that David has a heart that says, I want to trust in God. This is paramount to why God is willing to deal with him. Not that he never makes mistakes, not that he's always doing exactly what God wants, but the fact of the matter is, David understands that he is not the real ruler. God himself is the real ruler. David understands it's a privilege to serve God in the capacity of ruling God's people, even though he himself is a servant of God himself, right? So we'll see this as it plays out in 1 Chronicles 14 today. Listen to this. Now Hiram, king of Tyre, sent messengers to David along with cedar, logs, stone masons, and carpenters to build a palace for him. And David knew, what did David know? David knew that the Lord had established him as king over Israel, and that his kingdom had been highly exalted for the sake of his people. So what are we being told here? David understands something critical. He knows that, yes, he's risen to power, and yes, all these warriors have consolidated around him, and yes, despite his mistakes in trying to bring the ark to Jerusalem, overall, he's been blessed by God in the fact that he's making wise decisions, and he's conquering those who oppose him. But all the way underneath it, David says, look, this isn't happening to me because I'm smart or because I'm good looking or because I've taken 101 through 105 leadership courses and I'm qualified. No, David says, this is God. This is God who's put me here. I'm serving him. Critical. Watch how it plays out in his life. In Jerusalem, David took more wives and became the father of more sons and daughters. And here's another list of names. All right, these are the names of the children born to him there. Shammua, Shobab, Nathan, Solomon. Wait a minute, Nathan, Solomon. Does that ring a bell to you? It should. When you see these two names in David's lineage, what do you remember? I hope you remember this. That if you go to Luke chapter 3, the lineage of Mary is listed through the line of David, specifically mentioning Nathan, meaning Jesus is tied by birth to the throne of David. And Joseph himself is said to come through the line of Solomon. And although Joseph is not the paternal father of Jesus, Joseph has the right to the kingship. He has the right to the throne of David, and therefore Jesus inherits that right from him, despite the fact that they're not paternally related. Very critical. Here, the plan of salvation is being listed for those who are paying attention. The other names, Ibhar, Elishua, Elpalet, Noga, Nepheg, Japhia, Elishama, Belayada, and Eliphelet. Yeah, those are some names for you. Great. Well, David is doing what? He's having kids all over the place. All right. But those two on this list have basically eternal consequence in the sense that the Messiah himself is going to come from each side of those two guys right there. Interesting. But now the story. When the Philistines heard that David had been anointed king over all Israel, they went up in full force to search for him. But David heard about it and went out to meet them. So you think they're visiting because, they're friends, they want to congratulate him? No, now the Philistines had come and raided the valley of Rephaim. The Philistines are projected as enemies of Israel through almost every verse of Scripture that mentions them. Anyway, so David inquired of God. Oh, wait a minute. Stop right there. What happened? What is the pattern of behavior in David's life when he's facing something that, is not an ordinary circumstance that he can like he doesn't have to ask God whether he should brush his teeth today. I mean, that's not a issue. But, the Philistines are raiding our territory. Well, I need divine wisdom. I need divine help. I don't have the wisdom. I don't have the discernment to know what I should do. So David inquired of God. Now, we're a little bit ahead of the game because now that we're in 1 Chronicles, we can remember what we learn in 1 and 2 Samuel and 1 and 2 Kings. And we can see that many corrupt kings never asked God for help, never asked for discernment or direction. David, why is he listed as great? Why is he called the friend of God? He depends on God. He relies on God. He's waiting for God's help. He's not taking decisions of his own accord. So what does he ask God? Shall I go and attack the Philistines? Will you hand them over to me? And look at this. He cries out to the Lord. What does the Lord do? The Lord answers. The Lord answers him. Go, I will hand them over to you. David, I am going to be the one that brings victory. And David, I know you recognize that it's not you and your wisdom. It's going to be you and your guys. I'm going to use you to bring the victory, but the victory is mine. David's fully aware of that and fully willing to give God all the credit and the praise and the glory for what God will do using David to accomplish his purpose. This is what you and I need to deal with in our daily lives. Do we have this same pattern of behavior where when we face a circumstance, we go to God and say, what do you want me to do? How should I approach this? Will you please lead me? Will you guide me? Will you give me wisdom and discernment and direction so that I accomplish your will instead of mine? Beautiful illustration in this chapter. David and his men went up to Baal Perazim, and there he defeated them. All right, so hey, we win the battle, and I'm a great warrior, right? Well, look at this. He said, as waters break out, God has broken out against my enemies by my hand. I had participation in it, but it wasn't because of me. It was because of the Lord's power. God's the one that broke out against my enemies. That's it. That's the pattern of behavior we need to understand. David's perspective is not like most of the corrupt kings, or most of all the kings, really. David's here saying, I'm dependent on you, God. I'm willing to acknowledge your victory and give you the glory. So that place was called Baal Perazim. Look what happens. The Philistines had abandoned their gods there. Look at this. Remember how in those terrible kings, there was always this penchant to become idolatrous and do the wrong things. Here we go. David sees these idols that the Philistines have left behind, and what does he say? Oh, well, let's set them up. Let's use them on the high places. No. David says, let's burn those things. Those things have nothing to do with God. They're evil. They're satanic. We're going to get rid of them. This is David's heart. This is why David's called a friend of God. Once more, the Philistines raided the valley. Here we go again, another problem. What happens? So David inquired of God again. There it is. I depend on you, Lord. Jesus tells us, I'm the vine, you're the branches. You can't do anything without me. But do we live in that constant dependence? Do we live inquiring of God over and over as we face whatever circumstance comes our way? It's a good question, isn't it? In the end, we can see by example that David knows how to do it. He is going to set the pattern in his life of asking God. And we'll see, well, we already know this from Samuel, but when he decides to do something on his own, like take Bathsheba and sleep with her or kill her husband Uriah, you don't find anything in there about how David inquired of the Lord whether he should do that or not. No, that was him acting on his own. Here in Chronicles, we're not going to hear about those mistakes. Again, the chronicler is telling us that David is the rightful king and he's mighty and he does the right things. And here it is. He's doing the right thing again in verse 14. And what does God do? God answers him. No problem. Don't go, and look at this. God's going to give him strategy. Do not go straight up, but circle around them and attack them in front of the balsam trees. All right? As soon as you hear the sound of marching in the tops of the balsam trees, move out to battle, because that will mean God has gone out in front of you to strike the Philistine army. So God gives David strategy, and what makes the noise at the tops of the balsam trees, we assume that's God himself. Wow. So God's told him how to do it, when to do it, what the trigger is for him to take the action God's told him to take. What does David do? So David did as God commanded him. David says, okay, you're the boss. I'm happy to obey. I know that I can trust you, and I know that you're all powerful, and I know that if you say it's going to go this way, then I don't have to fear. I'm just going to walk into it, do what you told me to do, and watch you gain another victory. And they struck down the Philistine army all the way from Gibeon to Gezer. There it is. They struck down the Philistine army. So David once again achieves a great victory through his own wisdom, power, strength, understanding, great discernment. No. He has a pattern in his life, and it brings results. And the pattern is, I go to God and I ask him what to do. And when he tells me what to do, then I do it. That's it. Sounds so simple, doesn't it? But how profound is it that our sinful natures block us so many times from just doing that simple thing? Instead, we say, well, I don't like your idea, God, or I don't trust that you really are going to come through. I'm going to go ahead and do my own idea, right? It's like Abraham sleeping with Hagar. Gee, God, you're not doing it the way I would do it. You're taking too long, so let me fix it for you. Big mistake. Big mistake. And the chapter concludes here. So David's fame spread throughout every land. Yeah, news travels fast. There is a king in Israel, and he's powerful. They don't necessarily understand that he's powerful because God is fighting for him and through him. But the Lord is still in play. Look at this. The Lord made all the nations fear him. David is becoming a force through the power of God, and that power is being exercised because David has a pattern in his life, and that is he's going to inquire of the Lord before he does anything. He's going to go to God and say, God, how do you want me to handle this problem? What do you want me to do? When he hears what God has to say about it, then he does it. That's where the victory is. That's the lesson for us today. Let's live our lives with the same pattern. I pray God blesses you, church. Serve him well today.
Who is it who for sinners shed his blood, and now for cleansing all can plunge beneath